Hey guys, my name's Gloria and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about another book that I got from the book subscription box, which is an Irish subscription box that are currently doing ebooks, but they will be doing physical books again once everything goes back to normal. And I got this last month. I will link the unboxing above if you're curious. But I was really intrigued by this. I really like the cover, I really like the back and everything. And the book is Bunny by Mona Awad. And this explains the bunny ears. I thought it would be fitting to read this on like Easter week. You know, Easter Sunday is gone and everything, but you know, bunnies, it's relevant. So first off, I'm going to do an overview of what I thought of the book, just going in completely blind because I didn't know anything about this book other than just the very vague blurb on the back. Later on I will be going into spoilers and going into more in-depth thoughts on the book and the writing of the book. And when I finished the book I read some reviews that had good points in them, and I'm going to be looking at some of those points as well. So I will have a little thing at the bottom that says spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, if you don't want to know anything about it, because I think it is good to go into this blind. Once it says spoiler, you can skip or mute or leave if you like. I shall be going into more thoughts, putting my English degree to good use, you know. Critical theory and all that. I'm just going to read the blurb that I read that enamored me to this book. Samantha Heather Mackey is an outsider in a small, highly selective MFA program at Warren University. In fact, she is utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearably twee rich girls who call each other Bunny. But then the bunnies issue her with an invitation, and Samantha finds herself inexplicably drawn to their front door, across the threshold and down the rabbit hole. Blending sharp satire with fairy tale horror, Bunny is a spellbinding trip of a novel from one of fiction's most original voices. Samantha is part of an MFA in creative writing at this Warren University, and there are 4 other women in her group, which is unusual of itself because they're the only people in the group, and their tutor is also a woman, and she is the dark person, the one who's into dark things, and she doesn't come from wealth like they do, and they're very much into cutesy bunny things. They like pink, they all call each other Bunny, they're all like the best of friends, and she feels sort of left out by that. At the same time, she doesn't really want to be like them, but she kind of wants to be accepted by them. Once she does get accepted by them, she sort of loses her own best friend, and she realizes that maybe she's not supposed to be accepted by them. Maybe they need to learn from her rather than her learning from them. So that is what I read, and I was already interested in it, but there is a lot more to this book than cliques and an MFA writing course. There's horror and fantasy elements to this. It's not all just literary fiction set in the real world. I don't want to give too much away because I really enjoyed reading it blind, but it's definitely not an ordinary novel. So you're brought into the book with Samantha Heather Mackey, who she grew up in poverty. Her mother died, her father is a disgraced businessman, so she had a taste of the high life, I guess. She had a taste of some wealth at some point in her life, and because of this she looks down on the other rich people at the university who have more money than her, because she thinks they're all pretending to be starving artists. They write about things that she couldn't write about because they don't really know what it's like to live in poverty, and they write about people who don't have to worry about day jobs or paying rent or whatever. She is a typical, almost like, I'm not like other girls. She's at least saying she's not like the girls that she's in this writing group with. But I really enjoyed Bunny. I thought it was so funny. It is wonderfully written. It just flows along so well. The main character and her best friend are very sarcastic. They are quite judgmental of other people, but at times then they're forced to look at themselves and judge themselves on their own judgments, I guess. But the fantasy and horror element, I just didn't really see it coming, and it was strange, it was funny, it was bizarre. It's something I've never read before, and there are elements of, like the blurb said, fairy tale horror and stuff, and almost all of the main characters in this book are women. There's a couple of sort of men on the outskirts that Samantha interacts with, but for the most part everyone in this book is a woman. So that was interesting to read. As a writer myself, as someone who's studying creative writing and who I haven't done an MFA, but I've been in creative writing courses and creative writing discussions, and I find it quite amusing to listen to the critiques that go about for some of the writing that they're talking about in this book. Just so many of the phrases are so familiar, you know, the process, the work, opening wounds, and the pretentiousness of some of the language. I mean, any kind of talk about creative writing is almost always equal parts completely fascinating and utterly pretentious at the same time. You can go into so many layers of critique for something, but at some point you have to stop and say, why can't it just be that story? Why does it have to reference so many things and be metaphors for so many different things? And I think that was part of the writing in this book, was sort of making fun of that and making fun of the depths that writers go to try and explain their art or try and transcend the art or whatever. But that was quite amusing to me. I found that quite funny. So Bunny was well written. I liked the main characters and I liked how they interacted with each other. I think there is a plot throughout the book and it does resolve. The ending wasn't quite what I expected. I was like 5 stars until the very end of the book, and then I'm not 100% sure about the ending, but I still enjoyed it and it does resolve in some way, so it's definitely a book that I would be happy to recommend to people. But now, on to the spoilers. So I don't read other people's reviews of books before I read the actual book myself, but when I'm updating my Goodreads to say that I've actually read it, I will go through just to see what other people are saying. I'll go through the 5 stars and the 4 stars mainly, and this book had a lot of glowing 5-star reviews, but it also had a lot of absolutely livid 1-star reviews, and some of them were quite amusing just because they were so angry, but some of them had some good points that I did agree with and I can see where they're coming from. But the spoilers of the book are that they invite her into their little group, basically saying that she's always been the one that's kept them at a distance and hasn't accepted their invitations or tried to engage with them, but they invite her to a gathering, and it turns out that they are, it's not fully explained, but they are creating men from bunnies. They are performing some kind of satanic ritual of some kind, and they gather bunnies because the university grounds are covered in bunny rabbits, and they are creating men from them, and they're trying to create their perfect men by combining things that they like, speaking French and certain art that they like and writers that they like, so that these men can be their perfect men. And so far they have mainly failed. They can't seem to get the hands right, so they don't have hands, they wear gloves all the time, and they can't talk about themselves or their heads will explode. and they still quite act like bunnies and eat things they shouldn't eat, but Samantha is pulled into this group and she watches this go on, and she starts to be consumed by them, and they become like a hive mind, and she sees herself as a bunny as well, until her best friend sort of pulls her back out and she can see the horror of it. Then she attempts to create her own man. It goes much better than it did for them. She creates an actual person who has actual thoughts, and they're not entirely sure that it is a bunny man for a very long time. But this bunny man then falls in love with her best friend, and he is enacting his own art that he won't tell her about, and it turns out to be revenge on these 4 that are in her group, and he splits them apart. They end up hating each other. They end up creating weird art that actually embarrasses and humiliates them instead of being good art. In revenge, they kill her best friend, who it turns out was also a creation of hers that she made from a swan. Then the man that she created was created not from a bunny but from a stag deer, and he ends up injuring the women. He doesn't kill them, but he does injure them because they're all in love with him, and they're all fighting over him, trying to be the one that he stays with, and then he turns into a deer and hurts them. That's the weirdness of the book. They are creating men from bunnies, and sometimes the bunnies' heads explode. There were a lot of issues that some people took with the book, and I got it reading their reviews, because the entire book, the entire way through, the critiques that they do in their classes and stuff, they're all about female agency. There's a lot of feminist talk in the book by their tutor, and if you think about it, they're all trying to create the perfect man. So you could look at that 2 different ways, in that we know a lot of stories where men are trying to create the perfect woman, so it could just be the opposite end of the spectrum for that. Everything can't be perfectly feminist, but at the same time she has to create a man to save her from the situation, pretty much. She creates a man to enact revenge on these people and do the things that she's too afraid to do, that she's too timid to do. So you can look at it that kind of a way. I mean, it's the way they talk about it in the book is almost like she has writer's block and she can't create her art, and then she has to create a man to create her art better than she can herself. But it's also quite strange because she has a best friend who she loves called Ava, and you're not quite sure if she romantically loves her or if she just loves her as a friend, but then she creates this man as well, and then they love each other and she loves both of them. So she's basically just falling in love with herself, which is an odd thing. In terms of the feminism aspect as well, she is sort of I'm not like other girls, and the bunnies are almost the epitome of femininity. They're very cutesy, they're very pink, they like nice things and they don't like dark things, I guess, but she's very judgmental of this, and it's almost like she's just bashing them for that. Yeah, if you're looking at it through a feminist lens, then it's not a perfect feminist book, but I still find it to be entertaining. It's not a perfect story. There are issues with it, but it was different. It tried something new. There's a lot of satire about the literary criticism and stuff, and I think it was self-aware at times that it wasn't being the perfect story and that there would be a lot of criticism for it. So that is my review of Bunny by Mona Awad for today. This is my birthday month. My birthday is next week. I'll be 27 years old. Fun. If you would like to give me a free present, you can like and subscribe down below, or just leave a comment. I'm aiming to get to 200 subscribers by the end of the year, and you'll be helping me a lot if you like what I'm doing here. I have a lot of fun videos for you next week, absolutely cringy for me, to celebrate my birthday, so you can stay tuned for those, and I hope everyone's staying safe out there, and I shall see you in my last video of the week tomorrow.